October 20th, 1943. Warsaw, occupied Poland. A woman throws a package out her apartment window to a friend waiting below. The friend catches it, hides it under her coat, walks away. Seconds later, 9 armed soldiers storm up the stairs. In that package, sealed in glass jars, are 2,500 names written in code on tissue paper. The true identities of Jewish children smuggled out of the Warsaw Ghetto. Children with new names, new families, new lives. The soldiers will break this woman's legs, shatter her feet, sentence her to execution, but they will never get those names. Irena Sendler stood 4 feet 11 inches tall. She worked as a social worker. She carried children out of the ghetto in toolboxes, potato sacks, coffins. She convinced mothers to give up their babies, knowing they might never see them again. She kept lists, when keeping lists meant certain execution if caught. She saved 2,500 children, more than twice what Oskar Schindler saved, and for 50 years almost nobody knew her name. This is the story of how one small woman, with a permit and extraordinary courage, became one of the greatest rescuers of the war. How she paid the price for it. How the world forgot. And how 3 teenage girls from Kansas brought her back. February 15th, 1910. Irena Stanisława Kryżanowska is born in Warsaw but grows up in Otok, a town 15 miles southeast. Her father is Stanisław Kryżanowski, a physician specializing in tuberculosis treatment. Otok is 50% Jewish. Many are poor, very poor, the kind of poverty where you choose between food and medicine, and sometimes you get neither. Dr. Kryżanowski has a policy. He treats everyone. Rich patients pay, poor patients don't pay. He doesn't ask which religion you practice. He asks where it hurts. The other doctors in Otok think he's foolish. They refuse patients who can't pay. They especially refuse patients with contagious diseases who happen to be Jewish. Too risky, not profitable. Someone else's problem. Stanisław has a saying he repeats to young Irena. If someone is drowning, you have to give them a hand. Not you should, not it would be nice if, you have to. Moral obligation expressed as simple fact. Irena grows up watching her father work endless hours for little money. She plays with Jewish children, learns Yiddish by age 6, sees her father come home exhausted but satisfied. He's helping people. That's what matters. February 1917. Stanisław contracts typhus from his patients. The same patients other Otok doctors refused to treat, citing infection risk. Those doctors were right about the risk. Typhus doesn't discriminate. It kills doctors as efficiently as it kills patients. Stanisław Kryżanowski dies. Irena is 7 years old. The Jewish community of Otok responds immediately. They come to the widow's door. They offer money, financial support. They want to pay for Irena's education, fund the household, honor the man who treated them when no one else would. Janina Kryżanowska, Irena's mother, refuses. The family will manage, but she never forgets the offer, neither does Irena. Years later, Irena will describe this moment as foundational. The Jewish community remembered kindness. They offered help without conditions. They taught her that gratitude crosses boundaries that prejudice tries to create. 2 lessons from her father's death that Irena carries forward. First, helping others sometimes costs everything. Second, some people never forget when you extend a hand. These lessons will define her life. 1927. Irena enrolls at Warsaw University to study Polish literature. She's bright, engaged, idealistic. She's also witnessing something that makes her furious. Anti-Semitism is rising across Poland. Not quietly, loudly, officially. By the mid-1930s, universities adopt what students call ghetto benches. Jewish students must sit on the left side of classrooms, Catholic students sit on the right. Physical segregation, sanctioned by university administration. At Warsaw University, the policy becomes official in 1937. Signs posted, rules enforced, professors participate, students comply, except Irena. She scratches out the non-Jewish marking on her university identification card. She sits on the left side of classrooms with Jewish students. When professors tell her to move, she refuses. When administrators threaten punishment, she argues that the policy is immoral and she won't participate. The university suspends her for 3 years. This isn't youthful rebellion. Irena understands exactly what she's doing. She's sacrificing her education, her career prospects, her standing to make a point about human dignity. The pattern that will define her life is already visible. See injustice, refuse to accept it, pay the price. She eventually returns to university, but the damage to her reputation is done. School administrators label her a radical, a troublemaker, a communist sympathizer. When she applies for teaching positions after graduation, she's repeatedly rejected. The schools cite her radically leftist views and philo-Semitic activities. In other words, she stood up for Jews, so she can't be trusted to teach Polish children. Instead, she finds work with Warsaw's Department of Social Welfare and Public Health. It's 1935. She's 25 years old. She's a social worker. The job involves visiting poor families, assessing needs, distributing aid, documenting conditions. It's not prestigious, it doesn't pay well, but it puts her in direct contact with Warsaw's most vulnerable population, including Jews. September 1st, 1939. The Luftwaffe bombs Warsaw. German troops cross the border. The Polish military tries to resist. They're outmatched. Outdated equipment. Divided command structure. No realistic chance against German mechanized divisions supported by air power. By September 27th, Warsaw surrenders. On October 1st, German forces occupy the city. Poland is now under control of those who practice organized cruelty as state policy. Irena Sendler is 29 years old. She's a mid-level social worker in the municipal welfare department. She's about to watch her city transform into something unrecognizable. The German authorities move quickly. New laws, new restrictions. Jews must register. Jews must wear identifying armbands. Jews are barred from certain professions, certain locations, certain activities. Each restriction is presented as temporary, necessary for public order, nothing personal. The restrictions multiply. Jews can't own businesses, can't employ Christians, can't use public transportation, can't walk in parks, can't sit on benches, can't attend theatres. The list grows daily. Each item seems small. Collectively, they're suffocating. The Warsaw Social Welfare Department receives new instructions. Jews are immediately removed from staff. The department is forbidden from providing any assistance to Jewish citizens. Social workers like Irena are told explicitly, if a Jewish family requests help, deny it. Direct them to Jewish community institutions. Do not assist, do not document, do not acknowledge. Irena and several colleagues ignore these instructions completely. They generate false medical documents. They create fake paperwork showing Christian identity for Jewish families. They quietly continue providing food, medicine, money, whatever they can divert without getting caught. It's small scale, limited, dangerous if discovered. But it's something. November 16th, 1940. The Germans announced the creation of the Warsaw Ghetto. All Jewish residents of Warsaw must relocate to a designated area. 16 square blocks in the northern part of the city. The area is marked, boundaries are clear, movement begins. Nearly 400,000 people are driven into this space. 400,000. The ghetto measures roughly 1.3 square miles. The population density is unimaginable. Multiple families crammed into single apartments. People sleeping in hallways, stairwells, basements. The wall goes up, 10 feet tall, brick, topped with barbed wire, guarded checkpoints, armed patrols. The ghetto is sealed, entry and exit are controlled. Most people can't leave under any circumstances. Germans fear disease, so they restrict movement. Irena watches this happen, watches families she knows, people she's helped, children she's met, disappear behind that wall. She has a social worker's understanding of what confinement means. Overcrowding breeds disease. Insufficient food causes malnutrition. No medical supplies means preventable deaths. This is a slow-motion catastrophe being implemented with bureaucratic efficiency. She decides the rules don't apply to her. Irena approaches the Department of Epidemic Control, a municipal health agency responsible for monitoring contagious diseases. She explains that she needs regular access to the ghetto to inspect sanitary conditions and check for typhus outbreaks. The Germans are terrified of typhus. They fear it spreading from the ghetto to the general population. They fear their own soldiers getting infected. The Epidemic Control Department issues Irena a permit. Official, stamped, signed. It allows her entry into the ghetto to conduct health inspections. The permit is renewable. The inspections are meant to be brief, formal, focused solely on disease surveillance. Irena uses the permit differently. She enters the ghetto. She wears the required Star of David armband, mandatory for anyone inside, as a sign of solidarity. She brings whatever she can carry: food, medicine, money, clean clothing, soap, small items, but desperately needed. She makes contact with activists inside, people organizing underground assistance networks. People trying to keep children fed, trying to maintain schools, trying to preserve some dignity amid degradation. She connects them with resources from outside. She smuggles messages. She becomes a link between the ghetto and the outside world. And she witnesses what's happening inside. The conditions inside the Warsaw Ghetto are deliberately lethal. The Germans implement them systematically. Food rations are set at roughly 200 calories per person per day. 200 calories. A human body needs 2,000 to maintain basic function. The gap is starvation, calculated as policy. People die slowly, children faster than adults, their bodies consuming themselves. Sanitation collapses. Sewage systems can't handle the population density. Waste accumulates in streets. Corpses lie uncollected. Disease spreads. Typhus, dysentery, tuberculosis. The same tuberculosis Irena's father treated, the same tuberculosis that filled Otok's hospitals, now kills without treatment because medical supplies are restricted. People freeze. The ghetto lacks fuel for heating. Families burn furniture, books, anything combustible. Winter nights in Warsaw reach well below freezing. People die of cold in their beds. The psychological toll is immeasurable. Families watch children starve. Parents make impossible choices about who gets food. Elderly relatives die first, deliberately eating less so younger family members survive longer. The social fabric tears under starvation's pressure. Irena sees all of this. She makes daily visits, sometimes multiple times per day. She sees people she knows deteriorating, families she helped before the wall went up, now trapped, dying. Children who used to play in parks, now skeletal. She starts bringing more than food and medicine. She brings a notebook. She starts documenting names, documenting locations, documenting who's still alive, not for the Germans, for after, for when this ends, for survivors who'll need to find each other. This documentation habit will become crucial later, but first the situation gets worse. July 22nd, 1942. The Germans begin what they call resettlement. They announce that Warsaw Ghetto residents are being relocated to labor camps in the east. Work assignments, nothing to fear, bring minimal belongings, orderly transfer. It's systematic elimination, disguised as bureaucracy. The deportations start immediately. German and Ukrainian guards sweep through ghetto streets. They round up people in groups. Families, elderly, children, everyone. They force them to the Umschlagplatz, the transfer point, a square near the ghetto's edge where people wait for trains. The trains go to Treblinka. Treblinka is 90 kilometers northeast of Warsaw. It's not a labor camp, it's immediate execution upon arrival. Gas chambers, disguised as showers, bodies burned in massive pits. By the end of summer 1942, over 250,000 Warsaw Jews have been sent to Treblinka. Almost none survive. The remaining ghetto population realizes what's happening. The word spreads. Resettlement means ending. The trains mean death. People start hiding. They build concealed rooms behind false walls. They dig cellars. They stay silent when guards search buildings. Some fight back. The Jewish Fighting Organization forms. Young people, teenagers mostly. They acquire weapons through underground networks. They plan resistance. They know it's hopeless militarily. They fight anyway because dying while fighting is better than dying in a cattle car. Irena continues her visits. But now the dynamic shifts. Before, she was bringing food and medicine to people trapped in terrible conditions. Now, she's watching a population being systematically destroyed. The question is no longer how to help people survive inside the ghetto. The question is how to get them out. Fall 1942, after the summer deportations, a group of Poles and Jews established Żegota, the Council for Aid to Jews. It's underground, clandestine, funded by the Polish government in exile. Members include Catholics, socialists, intellectuals, activists. People who refuse to accept that nothing can be done. Żegota has multiple sections: financial assistance, medical aid, document forgery. Each section addresses different survival needs. In early 1943, they create a children's section. They ask Irena to lead it. She doesn't hesitate. I lost no time reflecting on the danger, knowing that I and my heart had to be there, had to be part of the rescue. The children's section has one mission: smuggle Jewish children out of the ghetto and place them in safe locations on the Aryan side of Warsaw. Give them false identities, find families willing to hide them, keep them alive until the war ends. Simple mission, extraordinarily difficult execution. Irena assembles a network, 20 to 25 people, mostly women, social workers, nurses, teachers, people with legitimate reasons to be around children, people willing to risk execution. Because that's the price if caught, not prison, not deportation, immediate execution. The Germans don't negotiate about this. The network identifies which children can be saved. Prioritizing is brutal. Infants need sedation for transport, which requires medical connections. Older children can be coached to pass as Christian, which requires time. Some families have resources to help bribe guards. Others have nothing. Then comes the hardest part: convincing parents to give up their children. Imagine this conversation. Irena knocks on a door inside the Warsaw Ghetto. A mother answers. Irena explains, "I can take your child out. I can give them a Christian name, false papers, a family to hide with. They might survive, but you have to decide now, and you might never see them again." What does a mother say to that? Some refuse immediately. They can't do it. They'd rather die together than be separated. The family stays intact. Irena understands. She doesn't judge. She moves to the next apartment. Some agree immediately. They see the trains. They know what's coming. If smuggling the child out gives any chance of survival, they'll take it. The family separates. The child leaves. The parents stay behind. Some waver. They need time. They ask questions Irena can't answer. Will the child be treated well? Will they remember us? Will they stay Jewish? What if we survive and can't find them after? Irena has no guarantees. She has hope and a plan and very little time. Jerzy Korczak, a famous Jewish educator running an orphanage in the ghetto, refuses Irena's offer to smuggle out the children in his care. He won't abandon them. When the Germans order his orphanage to the Umschlagplatz for deportation, Korczak marches with the children to the trains. He goes to Treblinka with them. He could have saved himself. He chooses not to. Irena respects his choice, but she makes a different one. She believes saving some is better than saving none. She believes children rescued with false identities can reclaim their Jewish identity after the war. She believes survival is sacred. So she has the unbearable conversation, over and over, 2,500 times. The question everyone asks about Irena Sendler: how did she actually smuggle children out? There are 5 main methods. Method 1. Ambulances. Irena's health department permit allows ambulances to enter the ghetto for medical emergencies. Legitimately, sick children can be legally transported out for treatment, but the definition of sick becomes flexible. Children are claimed to have tuberculosis, infectious diseases requiring isolation treatment. Germans fear contagion. They don't look closely. The ambulance leaves the ghetto. The child goes to a safe house. The ambulance returns empty. Some children are hidden under stretchers. Others lie beneath dirty rags or medical equipment. Infants are concealed in compartments under the ambulance floor. The Germans check, but cursorily. They don't want to touch potentially contaminated materials. Method 2. The courthouse. An old courthouse sits on the ghetto boundary. One entrance inside the ghetto, another entrance outside. Some children, particularly older ones who can be coached, enter through the ghetto side and exit through the free side. Irena's network provides them with Christian identity papers. They're taught Catholic prayers, they practice crossing themselves, they rehearse their new names. When they exit, guards question them. Where are you going? What's your name? The children answer in Polish, no Yiddish accent, with Christian names. The guards let them pass. One more Polish child. Nothing suspicious. Method 3. Underground passages. Warsaw has sewers and smuggling tunnels. Some connect the ghetto to outside areas. These passages are dangerous, dark, filthy, prone to collapse. But they're unguarded. Children crawl through. Guides wait on both ends. Not all children can handle this. Very young children panic. Claustrophobic children freeze. But for some, it's the only viable route. Method 4. Smuggling in objects. This is where the story gets visceral. Babies don't understand silence. Babies cry. Crying babies attract guards' attention, so babies must be hidden completely. Irena uses whatever containers she can access. Toolboxes. A worker carries a carpenter's toolbox into the ghetto, supposedly to repair something. The toolbox leaves with a sedated infant inside, buried under tools. The worker walks past guards. The toolbox isn't opened. The baby, drugged unconscious for silence, survives transport. Potato sacks. Loads of potatoes or vegetables move in and out of the ghetto for authorized food distributions. A baby is placed in a sack, covered with produce. The sack is loaded onto a truck. Guards glance inside, see vegetables. The truck exits. The baby is retrieved. Coffins. This is the darkest method. A dead body is being removed from the ghetto for burial. Standard procedure. The coffin holds both the corpse and a living child, hidden beneath or beside the body. Germans don't inspect coffins closely. Fear of disease. Fear of disrespect to the dead. The coffin passes through. The child is freed outside. 5-month-old Elżbieta Mieszkowska was smuggled out in a carpenter's box. She was given a sedative, placed in the box. covered, carried past guards, delivered to a Polish family. Her parents stayed behind. They died at Treblinka. Elżbieta survived. Method 5. The church route. A Catholic church stands on the ghetto boundary. Children enter from the ghetto side, remove their yellow Star of David armbands, exit through the front door on the free side. They're questioned by guards as they leave. The guards try to catch Jews this way, asking unexpected questions about Catholic doctrine. Irena and her team train children intensively. They memorize prayers, practice the sign of the cross, learn responses to Catholic Mass. Older children can manage this, younger ones can't. The children who exit successfully receive new identity papers immediately. The children who fail are sent back. Some are shot. These 5 methods, repeated 2,500 times, each time risking discovery. Each time knowing that failure means not just Irena's execution, but the execution of the child, the family hiding them, everyone in the network. Here's the problem Irena faces. She's giving children new identities, new names, new families, new locations. If she doesn't record their original identities, they're lost forever. After the war, surviving family members won't be able to find them. The children themselves won't know who they really are. But if she keeps lists, and the Germans find those lists, everyone dies. The children, the families hiding them, everyone in the network. Keeping lists is operational suicide. Irena keeps the lists anyway. She writes on tissue paper, thin enough to hide easily. Each entry contains 3 pieces of information: the child's original Jewish name, their new Christian name, and their placement location. Sometimes parents' names if known, sometimes just orphan. The tissue paper goes into glass jars. The jars are sealed. Irena buries them in the garden of Janina Grobelska, a trusted friend, under an apple tree. The code is simple but effective. Abbreviations, shorthand, nothing immediately comprehensible to someone unfamiliar with the system. But enough detail that Irena and her close associates can reconstruct the information if needed. Every child saved adds another name to the jars. The jars fill slowly. Each name represents an impossible conversation with parents, a dangerous smuggling operation, a family willing to risk everything. A child living under false identity. By fall 1943, the jars contain 2,500 names. Irena is the only person who knows where all the children are. This is deliberate operational security. If someone in the network is captured and tortured, they can only reveal the children they personally placed. But it creates a single point of failure. If Irena dies without revealing the jar locations, the children's true identities die with her. This is the risk she accepts. The names must be preserved. The network must be protected. Both requirements conflict. She navigates between them, betting her life that she can maintain the balance. The bet will be called. October 20th, 1943. Someone talks. That's how it always happens. Under pressure, under torture, under threat to family, someone gives information. Maybe deliberately, maybe accidentally. The Gestapo doesn't care about motivations. They care about results. October 20th, 1943, early morning. Irena is in her apartment. She hears boots on the stairs. Multiple pairs. Heavy, deliberate footfall. Not a casual visit. She knows immediately what's happening. She grabs the package containing money and addresses. Critical information that can't be found. She throws it out the window to someone waiting below, a plan prepared for exactly this moment. The package is caught and hidden. Seconds matter. The incriminating evidence disappears. 9 German officers break through her door. Gestapo. They're not subtle. They ransack the apartment searching for documents, addresses, lists of Jewish children. They find nothing directly incriminating. Irena has been careful, but they know she's involved. Someone provided enough information to target her specifically. They arrest her. No trial, No formal charges, just arrest. She's taken to Pawiak prison in central Warsaw. Pawiak is infamous. It's where the Gestapo sends people they want information from, people who resist, people who know things. The prison is adjacent to the ghetto. Irena can probably hear the ghetto from her cell, close enough to smell it. Pawiak houses political prisoners, resistance fighters, Jews caught hiding. The mortality rate is extraordinarily high. Most people who enter Pawiak don't leave except as corpses. The interrogations are brutal. The goal isn't justice. It's information extraction and punishment. Irena knows what's coming. She's heard stories from others. Pawiak has a reputation. The Gestapo interrogators aren't constrained by laws or ethics. They use pain systematically, escalating until they get information or until the prisoner dies. The Gestapo wants 3 pieces of information from Irena. First, where are the children? Names, addresses, locations. They know she's been smuggling children. They want the network exposed. They want to recapture the children and eliminate the families hiding them. Second, who are your co-conspirators? Names of everyone in Jegeta's children's section. The network must be destroyed completely. Individual arrests aren't enough. They want everyone. Third, where are the documents? They know Irena keeps records. They want those lists. They want to prove the scope of the operation. They want the evidence that will justify mass arrests. The interrogations begin. The Gestapo uses standard techniques. Psychological pressure first. Threats. Descriptions of what will happen to the children when recaptured. Promises of leniency if she cooperates. Appeals to self-preservation. Irena provides nothing, not names, not locations, not acknowledgement of any network. She maintains that she works alone, that she doesn't know where specific children are, that she has no records. The interrogators don't believe her. They escalate. Physical violence follows. Beatings are systematic. They break her legs, both legs, multiple fractures. They shatter the bones in her feet, smash them repeatedly. The goal is twofold: inflict maximum pain and ensure permanent disability as punishment. Irena's legs and feet are destroyed. The damage is irreversible. She'll walk with difficulty for the rest of her life. She'll have chronic pain. She'll never run again. The torture isn't designed just to extract information. It's designed to break the person psychologically and destroy them physically as a warning to others. But Irena doesn't talk. Days pass, then weeks. The interrogations continue. The Gestapo can't comprehend this level of resistance. People break. Everyone breaks eventually. That's their operating assumption. Applied pressure always yields results. Just increase the pressure. Except Irena doesn't break. She later describes this period simply. They tortured me. I didn't speak. No elaboration, no dramatic retelling. Just fact. They applied torture. She resisted. The resistance succeeded, because speaking would mean the deaths of 2,500 children. The Gestapo eventually concludes that further torture won't produce results. Irena is sentenced without trial. Execution, standard procedure. She's scheduled to die by firing squad. The date is set. The location is set. Irena is told she'll be executed on January 20th, 1944. She has roughly 3 months to live. She's 23 years old at capture, will be 24 at execution. Most people would collapse psychologically under this sentence. Irena uses the time to mentally catalogue everything she knows, trying to preserve information in case there's opportunity to pass messages. Jegota learns about Irena's execution date. The underground network hasn't been idle. They've been gathering resources, money specifically, large amounts of it. The plan is desperate but possible. Bribe the German guards escorting Irena to her execution. This isn't theoretical. Corruption exists in the German occupation apparatus. Not all guards are ideologically committed. some are venal, some are afraid. Some are simply tired and want money to survive post-war. The trick is identifying which guards can be bought and offering enough money that they'll take the enormous risk. Żegota identifies a guard. The bribe is prepared. The amount is substantial. Enough money that the guard can disappear after, change identity, avoid retaliation. The risk to the guard is immense. If discovered, he'll be executed for treason, but the money is apparently sufficient motivation. January 20th, 1944. Irena is taken from her cell. She's loaded into a transport with other prisoners scheduled for execution. The transport moves through Warsaw toward the execution site. This is the moment. The guard who's been bribed makes his move. The exact details are murky. Different accounts vary. But the outcome is clear. Irena is released from the transport. She's told to run. She escapes. The guard files a report claiming she was executed. Her name appears on public bulletin boards as among those shot that day. Officially, Irena Sendler is dead. Unofficially, she's alive, but barely. Her legs are destroyed. She can't walk without assistance. She's in constant pain. She needs medical attention. She's also now a fugitive. If discovered alive, she'll be immediately rearrested and executed, along with everyone who helped her escape. Irena assumes a false identity. New name, new papers. Żegota provides shelter. She moves between safe houses, never staying long in one location. Warsaw is dangerous. Germans patrol constantly. Informants are everywhere. Living under false identity requires constant vigilance. Her legs heal slowly and poorly. Without proper medical treatment, the fractures set incorrectly. The bones fuse at wrong angles. She'll walk with a limp forever. The foot injuries never fully heal. Every step causes pain. This is her permanent condition now, physical reminder of Pauyak. But she's alive, and the children are still safe. That's what matters. Irena can't lead Żegota's children's section actively anymore. She's too recognizable, too much at risk. Other members take over the operational work, but Irena stays involved peripherally, advising, planning, doing whatever she can from hiding. The war continues. Warsaw deteriorates. The Warsaw Uprising happens in August 1944, a desperate attempt by the Polish resistance to liberate the city before Soviet forces arrive. The uprising fails catastrophically. The Germans systematically destroy Warsaw in retaliation, building by building, block by block. 90% of the city centre is demolished. Irena survives this too, hiding in the ruins, dependent on help from people who continue risking their lives for her. The jars remain buried, the children remain hidden, the network holds. January 1945. Soviet forces finally capture Warsaw. The Germans retreat. The occupation ends. Irena emerges from hiding. She's alive, crippled, exhausted, but alive. The first thing she does is dig up the jars. The apple tree in Janina Grobelska's garden. Irena knows exactly where she buried the jars. The location was memorized, checked mentally every day during hiding. The greatest fear was dying without revealing the location. Now she's here, alive. The jars can be recovered. She digs carefully. The jars are intact. Glass doesn't decay. The tissue paper inside is preserved. 2,500 names, coded but readable. Jewish names, Christian names. Placement locations. The complete record. Irena begins the next impossible task, finding the children. Warsaw is devastated. 90% destroyed. Buildings gone. Records lost. People displaced. The infrastructure that existed before the war is obliterated. Finding anyone is difficult. Finding specific children with false identities is extraordinarily difficult. But Irena has the lists. She has contacts in orphanages, convents, foster families. She begins systematic searches, name by name, location by location. Some children are found quickly. Others take months. Some are never found. They died during the war, or moved, or their placement families were killed. The trails go cold. And then there's the harder reality. Irena is looking for the children's families, parents who entrusted their children to her, parents who stayed behind in the ghetto, parents who were promised reunion after the war. Almost all of them are dead. Treblinka operated from July 1942 until October 1943. 900,000 people were executed there. The vast majority were Polish Jews, including most of the parents who gave their children to Irena. She finds a few surviving relatives, aunts, uncles, older siblings, who survived camps. She reunites them with the children when possible. But most children have no one. They're orphans twice over. Once by circumstance, once by genocide. The children saved by Irena face an impossible situation. They survived, but they lost their families, their identities, their childhoods. Many were very young when smuggled out. They don't remember being Jewish. They were raised Catholic. They have Christian names, Christian families, Christian identities. Do you tell a 6-year-old that their entire life is a lie? That their name isn't real? That their parents who raised them aren't their parents? That somewhere there's a Jewish identity they can't remember? Some children are told, some aren't. Some families refuse to return the children. They've grown attached. They consider the children theirs now. Irena doesn't force anything. She provides information, makes connections when possible, but she respects the complexity. There are no clean resolutions here, just survival and its messy consequences. Poland after the war is complicated. The Soviets control the government. The Polish Communist Party takes power, and they have a specific narrative about the war. The official story emphasizes Soviet liberation, Polish communist resistance, heroic socialist soldiers defeating fascism. What they don't emphasize is bourgeois resistance movements, underground organizations, non-communist heroes. Żegota was connected to the Polish government in exile in London. The government is the communists replaced. The communists view Żegota members with suspicion. Some are harassed, some are interrogated. Some are imprisoned, some are executed. The crime is having served the wrong resistance movement. Irena Sendler keeps quiet about her wartime activities. It's not safe to discuss Żegota. It's not safe to emphasize Jewish rescue work in an environment where anti-Semitism hasn't disappeared. It's certainly not safe to claim heroism that doesn't fit the official narrative. She goes back to social work, quietly. She gets married, has children, lives a normal post-war life as much as possible. She walks with a cane. She has chronic pain. But she functions. She doesn't talk about the war. This silence extends across Poland. Many rescuers stay silent. Many survivors stay silent. The official state narrative doesn't include their stories. Personal trauma isn't acknowledged. PTSD isn't recognized as a concept. You're expected to move on. Build socialism. Look forward, not backward. Irena carries her memories privately. The children she saved, the parents who died, the interrogations at Pawiak, the names in the jars, all of it stays internal. Decades pass. Israel establishes Yad Vashem in 1953, the Holocaust Memorial Museum. Part of its mission is recognizing non-Jews who risked their lives to save Jews during the war. These people receive the title Righteous Among the Nations. It's the highest honor Israel can bestow on non-Jews. In 1965, Yad Vashem recognizes Irena Sendler as Righteous Among the Nations. Her name is added to the Wall of Honor. A tree is planted in the Avenue of the Righteous. She receives a medal. The ceremony is small. Irena travels to Israel. She's honored. She accepts graciously. She returns to Poland. Life continues quietly. Very few people know about the recognition. Poland's communist government doesn't publicize it. Israeli honors for Polish citizens aren't promoted. Irena continues living in relative obscurity. She's known to some survivors, known to some historians, but not widely known, not famous. Just an aging woman in Warsaw who walks with a cane and doesn't talk much about the war. Decades pass. 1970, 1980, 1990, Poland transitions from communism. The Soviet Union collapses. Warsaw rebuilds. Irena ages. She's in her 70s. Then her 80s. She lives with her daughter, Janina. She receives a small pension. She sees the children she saved occasionally. They visit, they call, they remember. But the world doesn't remember. Oskar Schindler is famous. His story was made into a major Hollywood film. Everyone knows Schindler's List. Everyone knows he saved 1,100 Jews. It's taught in schools, referenced in popular culture. Schindler is synonymous with Holocaust rescue. Irena Sendler saved 2,500 children, more than twice Schindler's total, and almost nobody outside Poland knows her name. This will change, but not because of historians or journalists or government recognition. It will change because of 3 teenage girls in Kansas who pick the wrong research project. September 1999, Uniontown, Kansas, rural community, small high school. Norman Conard teaches social studies. He assigns a National History Day project. Students must research a historical topic and create a presentation. Most students pick familiar topics: World War II battles, famous presidents, well-documented events. 3 students, Megan Stewart, Elizabeth Cambers, and Sabrina Coons, are looking for something different, something unusual. Conard shows them a clipping from a 1994 issue of US News and World Report, a short article titled Other Schindlers. It mentions various Holocaust rescuers. One sentence catches their attention. Irena Sendler saved 2,500 children from the Warsaw Ghetto in 1942 and 43. They assume it's a typo. 2,500 children? One person? Impossible. It must be 250 or 25. The number seems absurd. Conard encourages them to research, check the facts, find out if it's true. The students start digging. They search the internet. In 1999, the internet is young. Search engines are primitive. They find almost nothing. One website mentions Irena Sendler. That's it. One site. Minimal information. They're intrigued. If she saved this many people, why is there only one website? Why isn't she famous? They decide to investigate. Write to organizations. Contact Holocaust museums. Ask historians. Slowly, information trickles in. The number wasn't a typo. Irena Sendler actually saved approximately 2,500 children. The story is real, but almost nobody knows about it. The students are stunned. How is this possible? How does someone save more people than Schindler and remain virtually unknown? They decide their National History Day project will be about Irena Sendler. They'll write a play. They'll perform it. They'll tell her story. They title it Life in a Jar, referencing the jars buried under the apple tree. The students research intensively. They read everything available. They interview Holocaust survivors. They contact organizations in Poland. And then they discover something shocking. They ask the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous where Irena Sendler is buried. They assume she died years ago. She'd be old by 1999 if still alive. The foundation writes back, Irena Sendler is alive. She's 89 years old. She lives in Warsaw with her daughter. She's in poor health. She's poor financially. But she's alive. The students are amazed. Their historical research subject is alive. They can talk to her. They write to her. She writes back. The correspondence begins. The students finish their play. It's a simple production. High school theatre. Minimal budget. They perform it at the National History Day competition in Kansas. They win the state championship. The story resonates. Judges are moved. Audiences cry. The play continues. Other schools want to perform it. The students travel to present. Word spreads locally, then regionally. Media outlets pick up the story, not national media yet. Local newspapers, regional television stations. The human interest angle is perfect. Small-town students discover forgotten hero. The students raise money. They want to meet Irena. They want to go to Poland. The Kansas Jewish community helps fund the trip. Holocaust survivors contribute. In 2001, Megan, Elizabeth, and Sabrina travel to Poland. It's their first time leaving the United States. For one student, it's the first time on an airplane. They meet Irena Sendler in her small Warsaw apartment. She's 91 years old. She walks with difficulty. Her legs, broken by the Gestapo 58 years earlier, still cause pain. But she's sharp mentally. She remembers details. She tells stories. The meeting is emotional. The students present flowers. They present a copy of their play. Irena is overwhelmed. She never expected recognition. Certainly not from American teenagers. Certainly not this late in her life. She reads the play. She cries. The students ask questions. Hours of questions. Irena answers. She describes the ghetto, the smuggling methods, Pawiak, the torture, the jars, everything. The students record it all. They film interviews. They document her story comprehensively. And then something unexpected happens. Polish media notice. American students flew to Warsaw to honor a Polish hero most Poles barely know. It becomes news in Poland. Newspapers cover it. Television stations interview Irena. Suddenly, in her own country, she becomes famous. Let's talk about what Irena Sendler carried for 65 years after the war ended. She carried the memory of parents, 2,500 impossible conversations, mothers handing over babies, fathers giving up daughters, grandparents releasing grandchildren, knowing they'd probably never see them again, knowing the children might forget them completely. Choosing survival over family integrity, she carried the weight of choices. Which children to save? She couldn't save everyone. Resources were limited. Time was limited. She had to prioritize. Who gets smuggled out? The baby whose mother can afford bribes? The older child who can pass as Christian more easily? The orphan with no one left? Every choice saved one child. Every choice meant leaving another. She carried the names. 2,500 names memorized. Locations memorized. The mental burden of being the only person who knew where everyone was. If she died, the information died. Children would remain under false identities forever. The responsibility was crushing. She carried Pawiak, the interrogations, the broken legs, the shattered feet, the knowledge of what humans can do to each other when removing ethical constraints. She walked with a cane for 65 years. Every step reminded her of those weeks in prison. Physical pain as constant companion. She carried the silence, decades when she couldn't talk, when discussing Żegota was dangerous, when claiming heroism conflicted with official narratives, when trauma had no outlet. PTSD wasn't diagnosed. You moved on, built a new life, carried the memories alone. She carried the survival. Why did she survive when so many didn't? The parents who died at Treblinka, the Żegota members shot during the war, the children who didn't make it out. Survivor guilt is real, it's persistent, it doesn't fade with time. And she carried the question she asked herself until she died. Could I have saved more? The answer is probably yes. There are always more people who could be saved with more time, more resources, more risk. But Irena saved 2,500. That's 2,500 lives that wouldn't exist without her. 2,500 children who grew up, had families, had careers, had lives. Thousands of descendants who exist because she walked past guards with babies in toolboxes. But she never saw it that way. She saw the ones she couldn't save. Irena Sendler's story raises an uncomfortable question. What could you do in similar circumstances? It's easy to say you'd help. It's easy to claim you'd risk your life for others. It's easy when the question is hypothetical, when the risk isn't real, when you're not actually facing guards with guns and torture chambers and execution. Irena was a social worker, not wealthy, not powerful, not connected to international organizations or governments, just a woman with a permit and access to families willing to hide children. She worked within a system designed to prevent exactly what she was doing. She succeeded because she was creative, determined, and willing to accept the consequences. The Gestapo broke her legs, they shattered her feet, they sentenced her to execution. She paid the price, and she'd do it again. She said this explicitly in interviews. Given the choice, knowing the cost, she'd do it again. Most people in occupied Warsaw did nothing. That's not condemnation, it's fact. Most people focused on their own survival, their own families, kept their heads down, hoped to outlast the occupation. This is normal human behavior under extreme stress. Some people collaborated, informed on neighbors, participated in roundups, profited from Jewish property confiscations. This is also documented. Not everyone under occupation is noble, and a very small number, people like Irena, chose active resistance, chose to help despite enormous risk, chose others over themselves repeatedly. What makes someone make that choice? Psychologists have studied this. There's no single factor, no gene for heroism, but there are patterns. Rescuers often had parents who taught them that all people have equal value, that you help those in need regardless of cost, that standing aside when you can act is itself a choice. Irena's father taught her, if someone is drowning, you have to give them a hand. Not, you might want to. Not, if it's convenient. You have to. Moral imperative, expressed as simple obligation. She took that lesson literally. One thing Irena insisted on until her death: she didn't act alone. The narrative of a lone hero is appealing. One person against the system, individual courage against collective evil. It makes good stories. It's also incomplete. Irena coordinated a network of 20 to 25 core members, mostly women. Social workers, nurses, teachers, people with legitimate reasons to be around children. Each person took enormous risks. Each person could have been caught. Each person participated, knowing that execution was the penalty. Jadwiga Piotrowska, Irena Schultz, Jadwiga Sałek Deneko, Jaga Piotrowska, Jadwiga Deneka, Maria Pallister. Names that should be remembered alongside Irena's. They were there. They smuggled children. They placed families. They forged documents. They did the work. Beyond the core network, dozens more helped peripherally. The families who hid children, Catholic priests who provided false baptismal certificates, doctors who created fake medical records, the courthouse guards who looked the other way, the ambulance drivers who asked no questions. Rescuing 2,500 children required a conspiracy of goodness. Many people making small choices that collectively saved lives. Irena coordinated it. She kept the records. She took the risks. But she couldn't have succeeded alone. She wanted this remembered. When receiving honors, she always mentioned the network. When giving interviews, she listed names. When accepting recognition, she deflected credit. She was the visible face of a collective effort. The other network members mostly stayed quiet. Some died during the war. Some were persecuted afterward by the communist government. Some simply returned to normal lives. They didn't seek recognition. Didn't need credit. They'd done what needed doing. That was enough. This is perhaps the most important lesson from Irena's story. Individual courage matters, but collective action changes outcomes. One person with determination can accomplish remarkable things. But one person coordinating dozens can accomplish the impossible. What did Irena Sendler leave behind? 2,500 lives. That's the immediate count. But multiply that by the children those children had, the grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Today, there are likely tens of thousands of people alive because Irena Sendler smuggled babies in toolboxes past Nazi guards. Most of them probably don't know her name. Many of the children she saved died without knowing who saved them. Their families might not know. The records were incomplete, the connections lost over decades. But the lives continue. The descendants exist. They live normal lives in Poland, Israel, the United States, everywhere Jewish refugees settled. She left a model of resistance, a template for how individuals can fight systems. You don't need weapons. You don't need military force. You need creativity, determination, and willingness to risk consequences. Irena proved that one social worker, with access and courage, could subvert a genocidal regime. She left a reminder about recognition. For 50 years, almost nobody knew her story. She lived in obscurity, no honors, no fame, no acknowledgement. And she was fine with that. She didn't do it for recognition. She did it because children were drowning and she gave them her hand. The recognition came late, too late for her to fully enjoy it. She was 99 when she died. Most of her adult life passed in obscurity. But at the end, she knew. She knew people remembered. She knew the story survived. She knew the children she saved remembered her. In her final years, when students asked what she wanted people to remember, she gave the same answer. Remember that we were ordinary people who did what needed to be done. We weren't heroes. We were frightened, uncertain, often confused. But we had a job, and we did it. This modesty is revealing. Irena genuinely didn't see herself as exceptional. She saw herself as someone who responded appropriately to circumstances. She couldn't imagine doing otherwise. When children are drowning, you give them a hand. That's not heroism. That's basic humanity. But basic humanity under extreme pressure is heroism. Acting on principles, when acting costs, everything is courage. Choosing others over yourself repeatedly is extraordinary. Irena did this for years. She paid the price. She never regretted it. That's her legacy. Not the numbers, not the recognition, not the awards. The demonstration that ordinary people facing extraordinary evil can choose good, can choose action, can choose to give a hand to those who are drowning. October 20th, 1943. A package flies out a window. Glass jars containing 2,500 names. Names written in code. Names that represent impossible conversations. Names that represent children hidden across Warsaw under false identities. 9 soldiers storm up the stairs. They arrest Irena Sendler. They take her to Pauiak. They break her legs. They shatter her feet. They sentence her to execution. They try to destroy her. They fail. She survives. The jars survive. The children survive. Irena Sendler was 4 feet 11 inches tall. She worked as a social worker in occupied Warsaw. She had a permit that let her enter the ghetto. She had access to families willing to hide children. She had determination that wouldn't break even under torture. She smuggled babies in toolboxes, hid children under potato sacks, put infants in coffins alongside corpses, walked past guards who would have shot her instantly if they'd known. Did this 2,500 times. Succeeded 2,500 times. She kept lists when keeping lists meant death. She buried jars when the Gestapo was searching for exactly those jars. She survived Pauiak when almost nobody survived Pauiak. She walked with a cane for 65 years. Every step a reminder of broken legs and a choice to never talk. She lived in silence for 50 years. Couldn't discuss the war. Couldn't claim recognition. Carried memories and trauma and survivor guilt quietly. Went to work. raised a family, lived an ordinary life, haunted by extraordinary experiences. And then 3 teenagers from Kansas discovered her story, found her alive at 90 years old, wrote a play, spread the word, made her famous finally, too late for most of her life. But not too late for her to know. Not too late for the children she saved to thank her. Not too late for the world to understand what she did. Irena Sendler died in 2008 at 98 years old. She was buried in Warsaw. The children she saved, now elderly, attended the funeral. They placed flowers. They cried. They said thank you. Somewhere in Warsaw, now rebuilt, there's an apple tree. The original tree is gone, but there's a marker. It indicates where Irena buried the jars, where 2,500 names stayed hidden while the Gestapo searched, where the truth waited to be uncovered. Those names represent more than children saved. They represent choices made, families torn apart to save lives. Parents who never saw their children again, but knew those children survived. Networks of people who risked everything so others might live. They represent Irena Sendler's answer to the question her father posed. If someone is drowning, you have to give them a hand. 2,500 times Irena gave her hand. 2,500 times she pulled children from the water. The cost was her legs, her health, her anonymity, decades of silence. The result was 2,500 lives, thousands of descendants, proof that one person with determination can subvert genocide. We tell this story not to create a saint. Irena wasn't perfect. She'd be the first to say so. She made mistakes. She couldn't save everyone. She lived with that knowledge forever. We tell this story because it reminds us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. That courage doesn't require special abilities. That resistance is possible even under totalitarian systems. That individuals matter even when facing overwhelming evil. We tell this story because for 50 years, almost nobody told it. Irena Sendler saved twice as many people as Oskar Schindler, but Schindler got a Hollywood movie. Irena got obscurity. That's finally changing, thanks to 3 students from Kansas. Thanks to journalists and historians and filmmakers who are telling her story now. But it's late, very late. Irena died in 2008. Most of the children she saved are gone now. The network members are dead. The witnesses are disappearing. Soon, this will be only historical record. Photos and documents and testimonies preserved in archives. That's why we tell the story now. While there's still time to remember accurately, while the details haven't faded completely, while the truth can still be heard. Remember Irena Sendler. Remember the doctor's daughter who learned that drowning people need a hand. Remember the social worker who walked past Nazi guards with babies in toolboxes. Remember the woman who survived Pawiak with broken legs, but never broke silence. Remember the hero who insisted she wasn't a hero, who claimed she only did what was normal. Remember that she saved 2,500 children. Remember that most of those children's parents died at Treblinka. Remember that the children lived, had families, had lives, because one small woman decided that following rules mattered less than saving lives. Remember the jars buried under the apple tree. Remember the tissue paper with names written in code. Remember that keeping those lists meant risking execution, but losing those lists meant losing identities forever. Remember that Irena Sendler lived to 98, that she walked with a cane for 65 years, that every step hurt, that she never complained, that, she said, given the choice, she'd do it again. And remember what she wanted us to remember, not her name, not her honors, not her recognition. Remember the children, remember the parents who gave them up, remember the families who hid them, remember the network that made it possible. Remember that ordinary people under extraordinary pressure chose good. Remember that when someone is drowning, you have to give them a hand. That's the story. That's the lesson. That's what we carry forward. Irena Sendler, the woman in the jar, the rescuer of 2,500 children, the hero who refused the title, the ordinary person who did extraordinary things. Remember her, tell her story, pass it forward. Because forgetting these stories means risking repetition, and the world can't afford to repeat what Irena had to survive.